Hello everybody, Xanathar here. Today I am doing a review of episode 21 of the English dub of Ultraman Z. Let's talk about the kettles. Let's talk about Haruki. Haruki is very horrified about the weapon D4. He don't think humanity should use this weapon or even ready for this weapon. And that's something I find very interesting. Let's talk about my favorite character, Judless Judler. I like when Judler stands up against the Chillman and how he says he decides when to use the weapon. I think that is a really cool scene and I really like that. And I like how he is so worried about Yoko's life in this episode. Judler is fantastic in this episode, really likable and just really good. Now let's talk about Yoko. Yoko takes the responsibility to fire King Joe. She don't want to use the weapon, but she ultimately does because she's getting overwhelmed. She almost dies because of this weapon. Yoko is really good in this episode. Let's talk about the Chillman. At first he's kinda understandable about how they don't want to use a weapon, but he believes they have to. Because they rely on Ultraman Z, and what if Ultraman Z leaves them? And that really gets Haruki mad, but honestly it makes sense, because eventually Ultramans do eventually leave Earth, and humanity needs to have a way to defend themselves. And then he does acting different after when he apologizes and leaves, and when he bumps into one of his men, happen to be Cerebro. And now he's aggressive, wanting the weapon to be used. The Chillman is very interesting in this episode. Let's talk about Daddy Bako. Bako does not agree with using the weapon on King Joe, and is very sad honestly since he's kinda helpless and just has to watch. Eventually, with Yoko telling him to launch King Joe, he has to agree. Bako is really good in this episode. Ultraman Z. I actually find it very interesting Z sees the weapon D4 might be a good thing, especially coming from an Ultraman. And I like how he asks Haruki what does he think ultimately, letting Haruki choose what to do. Now let's talk about Yuka. She don't agree with the weapon D4, and that is very interesting. So Yuka is really good in this episode. Now let's talk about my Yuki. She is a very unlikable character, but not a bad character. It's just how she treats the members of storage. But she is very interesting, and I like the fact she wants to harness the power of Ultraman. So the characters in this episode are really interesting. There's a lot of human tension with everybody, and I really love that. It's very good. And it's really shocking the fact the storage gets sucked down at the end of this episode. Let's talk about the dubbing. Dino Robson as Haruki is doing a fantastic job in this episode with his emotion about how he did not agree with the weapon before. I just find really good with his performance. Mick Loud as Judless Judler is killing it as Judler once again. What I said before, he's the best voice actor for Judless Judler, and I just love his performance. Ben Phillips is doing a great job as a Chillman, first being very agreeable, and then changing into this a bad guy. I really love his performance in this episode. My Yuki's voice actress is doing a great job just playing a very mean character, and I really like her performance. The rest of the voice actors are also killing it in this episode. This dub is just amazing, what I said so many times. Now let's talk about the effects. Let's talk about Kelby. I love Kelbeam's design. It's a beautiful kaiju design. First appeared in Ultraman Mebius. It's cool to see Kelbeam in this episode. Especially seeing many Kelbeam in this episode. Especially seeing a huge Kelbeam. It's very cool to see Ultraman Z take her down. And the weapon D4 is a very scary weapon, and I really like how it looks. So the effects in this episode are really good. My criticisms. I have no criticisms for this episode. Now let's talk about what did I like about this episode. I love the whole plot and human drama in this episode about the weapon D4. That is very interesting to me. I love stuff about are we ready to use this weapon, should we use this weapon, and that is very interesting to me. Kinda reminds me of episode 26 of Ultra 7. Well, the weapon can blow up a planet, and how Dan don't agree with using this weapon and tries to tell people to stop, but all he can do is just watch. Because they use that weapon, the monster attacks, and it's up to Ultra 7 to keep that monster down. And that episode is one of my favorite episodes of Ultra 7. I think it's pretty interesting in the fact these two episodes are very cinema. What is my final thoughts for episode 21 of Ultraman Z? This episode is very well made. The story is fantastic. The human drama is so interesting to watch. This episode is just fantastic. It's a great episode. Well, that is it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me down below what you think of the episode. If you're new, subscribe. If you like this video, drop a like for this video. Xanathar is out.
Yoko, hold on!